So she actually logged it as herself.
Okay, good.
Does it matter?
No.
Yeah, what
You
did
like
you
pink?
want?
I do.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, and then you just want to get to that top where you put in the SD25 and then go to the
Oh.
board home. You can get all that saved as favorites afterwards too.
You catch me every time when I'm not,
Just not infinite canvas.
That's the idea.
gotta give me a
No,
heads
just,
up.
and then
Just
just do
one?
.us. Yeah, there you go. That's the one. Yep.
Photoshop though too, we can just.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, you gotta be careful when they
Okay, and then the
Photoshop.
board of trustees. And then home.
There you go.
It's right here. It's the current board agendas and minutes. And then we'll go into workshop with special meeting work
I don't know if I'm
Okay.
supposed to look up and smile,
Oh.
or if I was
Awesome.
the only one.
Thank
looking
you.
up.
What did you say?
I just said, I don't know if I should look up and smile, or if
Right.
I'd be the only one looking up and smiling.
Look serious.
Okay, are we all set? Everybody set?
So before we can start with work session, I'll need
Did you
to
get your
administer the
agenda?
oath of office.
Did you get the
So I just
agenda?
need you to raise your right hand and then repeat after
Get your
me.
agenda.
Yeah, I got
So
it.
say aye,
I,
and then state your name.
Heather
I,
Clark.
G. Oliver,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and the laws of this state,
the Constitution and the laws of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge all the duties
And that I will faithfully discharge all the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustee
of the Pocatello Chubbuck School District Number 25
of the
of the
Pocatello
office
School
School
District
District
25
in Bannock County,
in
Bannock
Bannock
County,
state of Idaho,
State of Idaho,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Okay, you guys are seated trustees, and Jen, you can begin the meeting.
Congratulations.
Thank you, congratulations.
I can make that loud enough. I call this meeting to order and would welcome all the new board members and everyone joining us in person and by live stream. Thank you for being here. All the board members are present. The purpose of the workshop is to receive optional reports from the administration. We will begin with Head Start program guidelines presented by Lori Craney and Kathy Lozmack.
Good afternoon. I'm Lori Craney, the Director of Elementary Education for the school district, and this is Kathy Lozmack, and she is the Head Start Coordinator. On the agenda today is information.
Mrs. Craney, could I have you introduce the guest as well?
Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
Or Kathy?
I know
Yes,
Michaela.
please.
All right. Good afternoon. We're pleased that our Policy Council Chair, each Head Start program is required to have a governing body at the program level, and it consists primarily of current Head Start parents and a few community members. And so Ms. Michaela Shell is our Policy Council Chair for this year, and she's also available if you should have any questions in regards to conversations Policy Council has had, as well as give you the parent perspective.
Welcome, Michaela. So on the agenda today is information about Head Start compliance. But before we go into the memo that is in your addendum, we'll start with a little background on the Head Start program. For over 50 years, a Head Start program has operated in Pocatello through a federal Head Start grant. The school district serves as a governing authority and provides oversight. Yet the Head Start program operates under the performance standards set forth by the Office of Head Start and policies established by your local policy council, which Michaela is the president now. The performance standards detail the operation of program with rules such as the number of students enrolled, the number of students per adult, how meals are served, and the criteria for employment. A policy council consisted of elected parents and community members meet monthly for program updates and to lead and make decisions about the program. Currently, the program has about 60 employees consisting of managers, teachers, teacher aides, assistants, social workers, bus drivers, food service employees, and Ms. Losmack is the program coordinator. We have 183 3- and 4-year-old learners enrolled in 6 classrooms housed at the Lincoln Early Learning Center and 1 at Tyhee. 2 years ago, when a fire destroyed a modular at the Lincoln Center that housed 3 of the classrooms, those classrooms were then temporarily moved to Wilcox and Jefferson Elementary Schools, where they are now. Plans are underway to relocate those 3 classrooms back to the new module in Lincoln this coming fall. Fingers crossed on that one. It's been a long time coming. So there are a total of 10 classrooms in our Head Start program. In your addendum is a memo written in collaboration with our legal counsel, and it references Head Start compliance. I will highlight some of the points in the memo, so I'm not going to read it to you. I'll just highlight, and you're welcome to read along. There are several mandates related to COVID that have impacted several groups, which I'm sure you're all aware, including OSHA regulation for employers of more than 100, Medicare, Medicaid providers, and then one that impacts Head Start. The Head Start mandates were different in that they did not come from an executive order, but they came through an interim final rule from the Office of Head Start, the Administration of Children and Families, and the Department of Health and Human Services. The Head Start mandate requires those working in contact with children and families to be fully vaccinated by January 31st. It also requires the masking of individuals within the program 2 years of age and older. In the regulation, it indicates that this mandate preempts state law. If a Head Start agency does not meet the standards, proceedings to terminate federal funding will be initiated. We, along with legal counsel, have been examining this issue. In December, a case was filed with the U.S. Court in Louisiana by 24 states, not including Idaho, contesting the Head Start mandates. On January 1st, 2022, the court granted a motion for a preliminary injunction indicating the federal government cannot enforce the Head Start mandates. Although Idaho was not one of the plaintiffs, our legal counsel has advised that the prohibition in enforcement applies to all states, and the Head Start mandate for COVID masking and vaccines are not in effect for enforcement due to the preliminary injunction by the Louisiana court. But this could change depending on what an appellate court may determine. There are also conflicting views of the reach of this injunction from the Office of Head Start. Our legal counsel believes it to be rational to anticipate that Head Start COVID mandate will follow similar paths to other COVID mandates. It is important for the Pocatello Head Start to monitor the course of these cases and to stay in compliance with the regulations. Failure to do so will cause the district's Head Start funding to be subject to elimination. There may be questions on all of this, but there is also in your addendum a resolution that the board will be asked to consider at the board meeting next week. I'll let you kind of digest some of that information. I'm sure that there's questions. We've had many, to say the least. Superintendent Howell, is there anything you'd like to add? Or?
So we, as you are all aware, learned of this with the Biden administration implementing this for all federal employees and contractors and so forth. And as Mrs. Craney pointed out, this would also count for Head Start. Now, the rest of the district is under the state of Idaho, and all funds come through or directly through the state, whereas with the Head Start program, all funds are channeled through the federal level. And so we are pretty restricted on anything that we can do to try to supersede anything that would come from the federal government without the loss of those funds. And so we have operated this program, did you say 50 or 60 years?
50 plus, since 1965.
Since 1965. In Idaho, we and only one other entity, I believe it's North Idaho College, share a similar experience in that we, as the board, is the governing body of a Head Start. I think most programs are outside of school districts and operate independently or privately, perhaps. And so this is an unusual circumstance for a board and a new board at that to have to undertake this challenge a little bit. But the way that we have prepared the resolution offers some advantage, I believe, in that if the board chooses to adopt it, that it would just follow whatever the law allows. As Mrs. Craney pointed out, this is already subject, as you can imagine, to some scrutiny, and it is working its way through the courts. There was a meeting just last Friday, and we were waiting to see what the outcome would be, but as you know, too, court cases can go on for years. And so, again, this would allow the Head Start program to continue to operate as it has. It does function somewhat independently, but yet again, the Board of Trustees does oversee that program in our district, and it's only one of two in Idaho. And so we don't have a lot of models to follow, and so we're a bit out there in terms of how we proceed with this direction. But again, that funding would definitely be in question. We had a number of calls that Mrs. Craney and I have been involved in with Ms. Losmack, who's had probably 10 times that amount with her superiors in the Head Start office. And so as you can see, even as late as today, probably within the last 30 minutes, we were on the phone with legal counsel trying to determine whether or not Idaho fell into that. Are we lumped in? Are we not? And there's conflicting information even between our legal counsel and the Office of Head Start, whether or not Idaho would have to comply with that. And so we anticipate that if you don't have questions today, that in the coming week that you will, but we need to have this as an item for action next week, because by way of everything that we understand at this point, whether it's conflicting or not, there is a deadline of January 31st. And so that would, even today, bringing this to you, we presented it at last month's board meeting, but we didn't have a lot of information. And we also knew that there would be a change coming with new board members being seated today. So we just gleaned as much as we could, put it into that memo format for you today, and that you could take this information and try to research it out on your own, to call any of us and ask questions, and we will do our best to answer those or find the answers for you, just as we are searching them out for ourselves. And so I don't know if Ms. Losmack, if you have anything else that you would like to add, or just be available for questions right now for a minute or so, and we'll see if the board has some thoughts or questions or.
So I have a thought.
You bet.
Not sure what the protocol is, and how to ask, and what the, how much we go into this. So as it turns out, so the job that I have in the real world, outside of this board, we're dealing with the exact same thing. We deal with Medicaid reimbursements, and we also have 103 employees, and so we're grappling with the exact same thing and the same deadlines and waiting to hear decisions. How we have decided to treat it is act as if it could happen, so we're collecting the data, we're finding out who is vaccinated, because it is not a HIPAA violation. I know that's a misconception out there, that to ask someone whether or not they're vaccinated or not is a HIPAA violation, and it is not. You can ask. What you can't ask is, if they ask for an exemption, you can't ask what the exemption is. And so that's what we're compiling, is the data, just so that if, things come and don't, depending on how things fall, either way, that you're more prepared, especially if it's a short turnaround time. I don't know if you've considered that.
We have, when this all came down, that's exactly what the path that we've been taking. Kathy and her staff have been meeting individually with all of them to find, where they are, to let them know, this is what could be coming down the pike. And so very much that's been the path that we've taken there.
We've also asked the question as to whether or not someone would remain employed if it became became a mandate. And then kind of creating, okay, what are the possibilities if we now have to go through weekly testing and using masks? And, you know, again, being prepared for those contingencies rather than waiting till the last minute. So I assume that's probably what you're doing, but I'm very familiar with,
We have about
it's
11,
angst.
11 that are, I believe, that are not vaccinated, you know, at this point.
So I'm trying to understand, does this mean that the children then also have to be masked and vaccinated, or is it just the staff?
So the vaccination would just be for adults because the majority of our children are not
qualify.
age eligible for any vaccination at this point. The masking is for children and adults.
And then this program happens before school, correct, or after school? It's not during school, and you'll have to help.
So our children, we have 3 and 4-year-olds in our 10 classrooms. We have 2 program options. Our full-day program option has 100 children. Those children attend school 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. Then our part-day option, so our other 5 classrooms, they attend 4 days a week for 4 hours a day. And most of the time is during regular school type hours.
So they are not integrating into the rest of the, you know, there's not like they leave that program to go into the.
No.
Okay, that's
No,
it.
they're strictly just in their own classroom
Okay.
because of the age. Yep. So,
Any other questions? And if you come up with any questions, just give me a call. You can give Kathy a call, talk to both of us, whatever. We'd be happy to help, you know. Because I know that even the program, as we were thinking about this, it's like, you know, knowing what the program even is. And and there are income guidelines that you have to meet in order for the program. So that's the population that it does serve are low-income families. And it serves, and when we say that, it always rolls off low-income families because it is for our learners and their families.
Thank you.
yeah, and so this mandate, I think they were looking at it as because we serve a very volatile and vulnerable population, not just for the children, but also for their families, and wanting to do our due diligence to protect their health and well-being.
Of course.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the overview of the SR3 plan and budget presented by Jonathan Balls and Dr. Howell.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Jonathan Balls. I'm the Director of Business Operations. And Dr. Howell had asked me to kind of give an overview of a plan that was previously approved regarding this is the first of many acronyms that you will learn. This is ESSER, which stands for, I had to remind myself as well, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief. Okay, and so this is the broad umbrella from the federal government, starting even in the previous administration, that we have received 3 different distributions from the federal government. Some of these other acronyms are CARES money, CARISA money, and now we're on ARP or ARPA, which stands for the American Rescue Plan Act. And so each one of these came with a specific dollar amount to our district, and they have been spent or are being spent at this time. What was unique on this ESSER 3, which is the 3rd installment, the reason why we call that ESSER 3, is that it was required to have a plan. And we did that. Dr. Howell assimilated the cabinet, all of the key or the cabinet members in this building to identify and create this plan from the template that the state had provided using requirements from the federal government. And so that started in August and September, and you have a copy of that in your packet there. Again, one of the important elements of this is that we had to get stakeholder, we had to get staff, we had to get parent input. And we found that the best way to do that is kind of through a survey, ranking some of these elements of the plan. We had over 1,500 responses, as you can see in the middle of number 1. And the end result of that, the priority that came for us to assimilate this plan and assign some numbers were staff retention, curriculum and programs, loss of instruction, mental health and self-care, technology. 6th was operational continuity. 7th was COVID-19 mitigation strategies, and lastly was maintenance or upgrade of facilities. And then the rest of the plan kind of described, again, the part of the plan, how we were going to implement. There were some mitigation strategies that we had to put in there to meet the most recent at that time, the CDC guidelines. Also unique to this ESSER 3 or ARPA money was that 20% had to be spent on learning loss. With our learners being not in school during that time, all the myriad of reasons why a learning loss had occurred, that 20% of these dollars had to be spent. And so our team, identified those activities that would help mitigate or reverse that learning loss or lost instructional time. Again, the plan went on how we're monitoring this using evidence-based activities to, again, be accountable for this money that we received. Again, the flow of money, just because that's what I get to deal with, again, from the federal government through the state of Idaho to us. So really, we have two different entities that we get to report to in that way. Anyway, and you can kind of go through the plan. I will say, obviously, it was approved. No revisions. I know several school districts that had to have revisions made to their plans, but we did a thorough job up front so that no revisions were needed for our plan. The second document that I wanted to draw your attention is this. It's a spreadsheet of the money for this ESSER 3. This plan, this document did not go to the state. This is your document. This is our document of how to actually put the dollars there. You can see this ESSER 3 installment from the federal government was by far the largest. More than the previous two, was a little over $19 million. A key element here that is that we have until FY24 is fiscal year 24, which will actually end in June of 25, June 30th of 25. So basically we have 3 years to spend this money. And so we want to be thorough, we want to be held accountable, but yet we want to use this one-time money. And so we've identified, again, using those 8 elements and put them in priority lists, staff retention and so forth. As you dive in there, you can look to see in November, again, through this whole pandemic, the staff has been doing a tremendous job, yet also doing some extra duty work there. And so the board had approved a stipend or an extra duty pay in that November paycheck, and the amounts are there at the end of that spreadsheet. Anyway, that was paid through ESSER monies. You can just list through some of those. Health insurance premiums, we feel those are going to go up as people have become more and more sick. Our health claims have increased quite a bit, and so we're anticipating some health premium increases that this money could help offset. And so go to the next section, some curriculum, again, to help learning loss, to help our learners to do the very best and to catch up if they do need to be remediated or accelerated there a little bit. Again, number 3 is the same thing, loss of instruction, some tutoring, that we've already seen that, some summer school, the IDLA, Idaho Digital Learning. Oh, I was gonna say Academy, yep. So Idaho Digital Learning Academy Alliance, forgive me. Again, another tool, these are all tools that we can help our learners. Another teacher, full-time equivalent teacher at our New Horizons. Again, these are items that our team had identified. We may do them, and we may not. And some of those things that we look at the current environment, obviously everyone needs more staffing, and so getting people is a concern there. As you can see, contracted services are a big portion of that. If you could, that next page in 5, some good things. Again, this is one-time money that we have to upgrade some of our facilities. We felt that these large meetings and gatherings, we identified that our auditoriums, our sound and lighting in our high schools really need to be upgraded. This is good money that we can spend for this cause to do that. I did fail to mention, I have some copies, but again, all this federal money, again, tied with a lot of strings. There are 20 areas that the federal government has put out for use of funds. And so this has been modified through the different ESSER payments, but they have settled on these 20, which is very broad. I'll even read the 20th, which is almost all-encompassing. Number 20 is other activities that are necessary to maintain the operation and continuity of services in our local education agencies, which is our school district, and continuing to employ existing staff of the local education agency, which is our district. So again, very broad there. The next section, last year, the state legislature actually reduced some of our payment because they knew we had all this federal dollars. And so we actually had to spend some of our SR2 money to backfill that and to balance our budget. In the event that they do that again, we have this money set aside and available. Again, if it's not used, then we will reevaluate, come back to the board with a new budget and say, okay, this is how we'd like to spend this SR3 money. And then finally in 7, that again, it's great for some outdoor facilities. That second one down, playground equipment. All of our elementaries are going to receive brand new playground equipment or pieces to their existing equipment. If they're happy or they're fairly new, we'll expand those. And so again, great use of one-time money. Get some more playground equipment so our learners can enjoy the outside, spread out a little bit more as well. Same with down there for some extra bleachers, some outdoor facilities. So again, some additional bleachers so that spectators can kind of spread out a little bit, again, qualifying under those use of funds. I will mention some of these air scrubbers that we're anxiously awaiting for. Basically, they scrub everything from COVID to all sorts of different particles in the air, and just making it a lot healthier. We anticipate that these air scrubbers would be used in the large rooms, cafeteria, media centers, gymnasiums throughout the district. Auditoriums, thank you. Correct. That was about all I had. Dr. Howell, did you have any additional
Very well.
things?
Well, thank you.
Any questions, or if
Well,
that?
maybe just talk
Please.
about the fluidity of the document.
Oh, yes.
Other funds and, yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So again, this is just a piece of our pie. You as the board are responsible for about $150 million. Again, there's a lot of strings attached in facilities and as we heard from Head, and that's including the Head Start budget, a lot of different strings there. And so this is just one little, it's not little, it is a big piece of that pie, but again, we can change that, we can modify that. The money, in a little bit of training, just real quick, federal dollars have to be spent, and then we request it. So the money, our $19 million is available to us. As we spend it, we draw down that money and basically reimburse us. And so there's other funds, the 100 fund, again, you'll get all this good training. But because of this extra dollars, our local funds are pretty, what do you say? Pretty stout. You know, they're pretty solid. And so we want to make sure we're using our taxpayer dollars equally as important as these federal dollars. And so we're mindful of all these different funds as well. So we wanted, so this is a very fluid document, probably more fluid than even say the budget that is set by contracts and you know, a part of the budget set by contracts and so forth. So I will come before you several times and discuss this budgets and money, and along with Carl as well. So, anything else? Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
So the fiscal year you said goes from July to June.
Yes, July 1st, June 30th.
So this fiscal year 22 started July
1st.
21, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
June
Yes.
20th. So
Correct.
will this, I mean, are you on track to spend all of this? I mean, or was this just, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of money, we've only got half a year left.
Okay, so we, for our budgeting purposes, divided it into the 3 years, but we actually have until June 30th of 2024 that we
Okay,
can.
so it'll roll over.
Oh, absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
So it's a use it or lose it by the 20.
Yeah, it's, and I
2025?
actually, I
July 25.
I actually misspoke, forgive me. You helped me realize my mistake there. It actually is that fiscal year 24 is actually June 30th of 24.
25.
So
of
it is
24.
24, ouch. It is
Oh.
24, so
Okay.
I
24.
misspoke there, forgive me.
Okay.
So we basically have, 2.5 years to spend this money, so I was mistaken there.
Most of their federal grants, Mr. Balls, are 12 to 18 months.
That is correct,
So an example of that is Title I.
Correct, we have several, we have several federal grants. And again, you will meet all those individuals over those programs and even cabinet members that are over them all. But we have several programs, Title I, which is our, Title I program, IDA Part B, which is our special ed. We get some federal dollars for teacher improvement, teacher quality as well. And that was.
We have 4, which is homeless.
Correct, yes, there is, Title IV,
But
Title VI.
typically, they don't extend out over this longer period of time.
That is
As it is with these ESSER funds.
correct. And I'll even mention that to this point, this federal government and through the state hasn't required any accounting back, but that's starting to come. And so we're anxious to kind of see those accounting reports. Of course, we have all the documents, how it's spent, and so it shouldn't be too hard to generate that reporting. But as Dr. Howell said, we do. This is unique in this federal funds that we have. Again, it was 3 years, and now we're into 2.5. So did that answer your question?
It did, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a few questions on the details of it. Do you want to go into details of this right now, or is this more just an overview?
Good question.
Just an overview.
it's probably just
for
over.
today,
Okay.
As we, next month, we'll bring mid-year budget adjustments, which is very unusual for a board that has just been seated
Mhm.
to look at a mid-year.
Oh,
But,
this is about questions about just the details of this.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I anticipate that in a different work session, as we have an opportunity to look through those budget items, the expenditures, where we're at, and then come back to the board, probably, 3 to 4 times in a year, just to update you and to take questions and input. And so, I think that would go really quite well with
Sure.
the mid-year budget adjustments. It might be a longer topic, but definitely worth visiting about.
And I think if there's any other specific ones, I mean, she can, Mrs. Judy can still direct those right through you to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're
I'll talk
available.
with you
We
after.
are, we are here for you, for Dr. Howell.
Okay.
We're here
Yeah,
for you,
I just had
definitely.
some questions about several of the things of the playground equipment, tutoring, teachers of record, contract services.
Absolutely.
So just details.
I think, yeah, that would be, very appropriate. Again, we're here, we're here for you and Dr. Howell as well, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Dr. Howe will review the following: school board training, proposed 2022-2023 board meeting schedule, and an overview of board reorganization and protocol for election of board officers. Dr. Howe.
Okay, quite a number of items. Thank you, Mr. Facer. So first up is training. And in years past, whenever there's been an opportunity, and maybe this year more than in other years that I can recall, with a majority of our board being newly seated, that we have an opportunity, and it starts mid-year. Again, that's an unusual thing for us from the past, whereas board elections have usually been held in May, and then those folks were seated for a new fiscal year in July, and we would just move that way. And so you're coming in kind of partway through the game, but we're going to catch you up best as we can, and we know that there's a bit of a learning curve here, but we're going to help you through it. And with questions that you have for us, certainly that will help all of us to know where you're at and what you need to know and what you want to know, and things that you don't know yet but need to know. So all of that in mind, I have reached out to Idaho School Boards Association, and we have been a member of Idaho School Boards for as long, again, as I can remember, probably 60-plus years. And they have trainers that come out. Typically, they are district-level administrators or former board members who have experience and information related to these different topics. And I'll share those with you in just a moment. And so it's kind of a third party coming in rather than me walking you through it through the lens of a superintendent, a current superintendent. This is someone who is likely a former superintendent or a former board member or perhaps an existing board member. So someone who understands the role and responsibilities of board members. And so there were a number of folks to choose from. We've had a few come through the district, and I have asked Lisa Sherrick, Lisa, right? Yeah. There's Lisa Cologne now who just joined their team, and I'm getting Lisa's mixed up. And she's a former superintendent of Rigby School District, and she is currently working with the Idaho School Boards Association as well as the State Department of Education on behalf of Superintendent Ibarra. So again, a lot of experience that comes with her previous experience. And so there are 6 standards or 6 modules that they offer, and I am proposing that, and we can talk more about times and dates as we work ourselves into the calendar, which will be the next item. But we might be looking at a February date. So if we just did 1 per quarter, and I've asked her what the typical time is, and it's anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. So I said if we could stay maybe an hour and a half, 2-hour range, questions, and just gauge by our interest and our questions and our ability to communicate effectively and continue through that process. And so we, again, looking at maybe February 2nd to start at 2 p.m. And we would just look at effective governance, a standard 1, which would include transparency and open meeting law, basic school finance, parliamentary procedures, roles and responsibilities, governance, conflict management, setting policy, effective board meetings, board superintendent team formation, selecting board officers, which we will be looking at next week. So that topic may be a little behind us at that point, but we'll have it for future reference. And teamwork. So that's a lot to, put under the umbrella of governance and to try to pick it all up in 2 hours. But I think a lot of learning comes through experience as well. So the training will be very helpful, create kind of a framework for you to see and understand, and then the rest of it, again, will just come with experience. Standard 2 is continuous improvement. I won't go through the details of each of these. Maybe we could do that at another work session or when we have an opportunity to meet with the trainer. Standard 3 is advocacy. Standard 4 is accountability. Standard 5, community engagement. And Standard 6 is board operations and professional development. As Ms. Johnson and I looked through these, I don't know that we would go in that sequence. I think there are some priority items that we could move up and just maybe proceed that way. For example, board operations, professional development, I think that's important. They're all important, certainly, but some that you may need prior to the others, in my opinion. And so if that would work out for you, again, 2 o'clock is just a tentative time, it's a placeholder. I don't know what your calendars will allow and what your other professional and personal responsibilities will allow, but you just tell me, and then we can try to accommodate all the board members, at least a significant majority, and then we'll fit it into the calendar.
Did you consider doing it all in one day, like taking a Saturday or another day and just doing all of it as opposed to spreading it out?
You know, that's what I guess I was meaning when I said what we're capable of handling. I think there's a certain level of a point where you hit saturation, and I don't know if you're as productive as, I mean, certainly we could look at that.
I think my brain would shut off.
I feel like I would develop more questions, that it would be nice to have it over a period of time to answer questions that come up. That's just kind of my thoughts.
Okay. And again, I'm totally.
Yeah,
open
I
to
just was
your-
wondering, just because we are jumping in
Uh-huh.
midstream, whether it would be beneficial to, because I see you've got one of the trainings clear out in October of next year, or this year. So, the year we'll all be into next year, next school
We
year.
will.
I don't know,
And-
that was just my thought, is that if,
We could reduce the time between meetings. It wouldn't
Mhm.
have necessarily be a quarter. It could be once a month, again, depending on your time and
Yeah,
what
I
your
would-
time
yeah, I'd
will
be-
allow as a board. And so again, my particular preference would be to reconvene more regularly
right.
and lump it all into one day. That would be really hard for most of us in here, but.
And generally, because I do work full-time, I don't know if either of you do, or you guys are retired, aren't you? After 3 works better for me, but I mean, on
Okay.
occasion, if we did do this quarterly, I could make arrangements to be here earlier, but after 3 usually is better for me.
Okay,
That's fine with me too. 3 is.
okay.
Yes, that works
Alright.
for me too. And I do like the idea of monthly.
Okay,
Yeah, I would.
all right, yeah, we can definitely move you through it faster. Again, I did not know what your time would be and would allow, and so that's why I just suggested.
Feeling like a sponge, and so
Yeah,
as
if
much
you're
as we
ready.
can get,
Yeah.
as soon as possible works better. I
Okay,
don't know. I think it makes us a more effective board
uh-huh.
if we get it sooner.
Okay, all right. We will work with Mrs. Sherrick's timeframe as well, but again, she's just an hour away. So rather than have someone coming over Boise, scheduling conflicts and weather and so forth, I think that would work out well. As we're headed into spring, your obligations will become a little more active, because April lends itself to some different receptions. Again, some of those change depending on where we're at as a community and with the COVID and so forth. And in May starts to get pretty hectic as well, again, with receptions and graduation and your schedules, certainly when you have children in school. And we want to be mindful of those activities that you have planned with your families as well. But I think if once a month will work for a majority of you, that's what we'll plan for.
Is she available in between for questions at all?
Oh,
Would we be able to contact her?
we will check. I'll
Okay.
ask. You bet.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, the next item that I have is under item D, and it is the scheduling. And as you can see, our schedule is pretty well set in terms of what we do by the month. With regular board meeting, third Tuesday at 5:30, in my mind, that's the most important. Work sessions have typically been at noon on the second Tuesday. Again, maybe you're looking at Mrs. Clark's schedule. If the rest of the board would entertain that idea, we could move the work session. It does not have to be at noon. In fact, in my time here at the district office, I think it has been, we were going through this yesterday, Ms. Johnson and I were, 4:30, I don't think we ever did 1:30, noon. And so, again, it's just the availability of the board. And as administration, we can work around that. So already for this year, we have it set, but with the new board and the calendar being part of next week's action items, we can change that. And so if your preference would be to have a work session a little bit later, earlier, whatever, we can do that. So maybe some discussion about work session, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of these other responsibilities.
I'm good with 3:30.
Yeah,
Yeah, that works for me.
Later works a little better. Does that,
I'm pretty flexible, so.
are you?
3:30 is good for me, yeah.
It just makes it difficult for me to leave work and then have to kind of go back. And so if I knew that I was done at 3:30, I could let them know to not
Okay.
expect me to come back, so.
All right. Mr. Vitale?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so we'll look at that. And then, first Tuesday, what we like to do is get our board members out into the schools. And so we have scheduled school visits in the past and allow you, we just, of course, we can't have more than 2 board members in any one place because that would be a quorum. We have to notice. And so we break it down. 2 will usually go with elementary director, 2 with secondary director, 1 might go with myself or Mr. Balls to one of the departments such as, or Mr. Smart to technology, maintenance, food service, and so forth. And so those would, again, usually be
That's
in
fine.
the morning because we can catch, what we've learned is catch the principal and the administration for a short visit and let you ask them questions. They update you about their goals for the year and so forth. And then if we have a chance to get into some classrooms, perhaps even before the day starts, talk to a few teachers. And then once school's underway, then we have an opportunity to watch the interactions and the engagement between teachers and learners. And so that's, again, what we've set up in the past and found that it really, it's worked well for us. If that would
So-
be okay.
Yeah, so usually first thing in the morning until,
Oh, it's about an 1.5 to 2 hour visit.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
we'll accommodate your schedule. If you
Okay.
say, I just have an hour today, we'll shorten it up. And depending on who you're paired with, or if you're on your own, we can make that happen too.
And how soon do you know where you're going? I mean, for me, it is as much lead time, I can make it work. I just need,
Ms. Johnson puts together a calendar, which I,
Usually for the year. but
oh, very good.
it's broken up this time.
And
it's
by
working
school, or you know which
from
school?
February to May.
Okay, yeah, no, that works.
Okay, and then about every other Wednesday, we've asked for you to just block out a little bit of time. That's usually been at 3:30.
Mhm.
And we have student discipline hearings. Those are the cases or the learners that have been referred through the district disciplinary review committee, DDRC process, that need to come to the board. It could be for a weapon or continual behaviors and so forth. And so the board would meet on those. Like we have one scheduled for tomorrow at 3:30. And so if that will work for you, we'll maintain that about every other Wednesday. Because, Ms. Wilkes sees anywhere from 5 to 10 students each week.
Mhm.
And so depending on the outcome, and it's a due process opportunity, that maybe there are options that we can intervene at a different level, but there are some that do have to come to the board.
So I had a question about that. I mean, what is the involvement of the board in I mean, are we gonna get some feedback before
You know,
tomorrow?
it's going to be that baptism by fire a little
Okay.
bit. And that
Really not
tomorrow,
you guys.
if maybe, I was thinking if I could have 3 new board members, if 2 of you could come a little bit earlier, and then maybe 10 minutes later, stagger a different time to have one of the other 3 of you come. and I could just talk to you about the format and what
Okay.
that will look like. And truly, it is the board who makes a determination on an expulsion.
Interesting.
And so we, as administration, will have a recommendation to present to you. You have legal counsel on the phone and can interact that way. But I can visit with you more tomorrow, and we'll just arrange that maybe after this meeting. Okay.
Have to be
Yes, so
Impartial.
you heard
Okay.
Ms. Johnson, but for those, we do try our best to get information to you, work sessions and regular board meetings ahead. Today, we were still trying to work out some of the finer details of that Head Start, and so I apologize that didn't get in last Friday for you to look at over the weekend. That's why we're trying to get it to you at least. And work session items, those are items that typically need a little more education and instruction. You know, it's not like a consent agenda where you look through some bills and some HR activity in just 10 minutes perhaps. Those are the items that are a little more detailed and involve the budget and so forth. And so that's work session. But yeah, student hearings, you don't see anything ahead of time because we don't want you to form any opinions. We want you to hear both sides, the administrative side of it, the student side of it, and parents and families, and then to make a decision for the best based upon that. I said that well, and move through understand some of it, but we'll have more opportunity. Okay. Is that about it, Renee? Do you think? Covered all these other items. ISBA Day on the Hill is coming up next month. We do have reservations. That's a 2-day event. It's President's Day, and it's been scheduled that way again for a long, long time. So that would take part of the 3-day weekend. But if you're available, we do have reservations already confirmed for each of you. We did that way ahead because just launching in Boise in February can get pretty difficult with all of the activities and so forth that happen over in that area. And anticipating that you would like to attend, but again, schedules dictate that for your personal and professional lives. And we know that you have those outside of just this opportunity as well.
So it's a Friday, Saturday?
It is a Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, and then we have usually attended in November the ISBA conference, and that's usually a 3-day commitment. And sometimes 4 if we have to go to Coeur d'Alene. We fly through Seattle, or sometimes we get a direct flight to Lewiston, not Lewiston, Coeur d'Alene.
Coeur d'Alene.
Spokane.
Okay.
I'll have it straight in the middle. We've covered pretty much that whole northwest corner now. But, yeah, and you know that the flight's somewhat difficult nowadays with limited crews and illness and so forth. So, and I believe next year it might be Coeur d'Alene again. Yeah. So that might be a 4-day commitment in November, depending again on circumstances. But for sure, if you could look at your calendars and let us know that February date, it is the 21st and 22nd. And then we spent some time at the Capitol, we spent some time with our legislative delegation, our representatives and senators, and then there might be a board of training in there somewhere, and then it's just a turnaround of a day. Okay.
There's also something there in April, the Education Law Institute. What is that?
Okay, coincidentally, the Law Institute is hosted by the legal firm that the district uses, Anderson, Julian, and Paul. But they have other attorneys there that present as well. They just happen to host it. And we could get probably 3 of you or more, I don't know how many of you would like to attend. And it's just workshops or sessions, and you choose what interests you, and Renee could get that. We've seen some information on that. Yeah, we actually have the agenda with the topics. Okay. And so we could get that to you, and if that is of interest, we can get you registered and get accommodations and so forth set up as well. And that also happens once a year, and it's in April for quite a long time. So if you're interested, please let Renee know. and we'll get you-
Where's that held?
That'll be in Boise.
In Boise.
Yeah. Okay, so if you have any questions, I can answer them. It looks like after 3 was best for some of our day trainings and events other than, and again, if you're not available, oftentimes though, if it's an executive session, we need at least 4 board members to start. Any special meetings, work session, or regular session, if you can't be in person, it can be by phone. That would be helpful too, just for you, as you keep up on all of these items and everything that happens in the district best you can. So, I think that covers that item. And then, finally, overview of work reorganization and protocol. So if I can have you go to E, there are a couple different documents here, but I'll let you just look at the policy on your own. And if we could have you look at that second document on the protocol for election of board officers. And again, I won't take you through this by individual item. I'll let you just scan it and have an idea of how this will work for next week. As we look to reorganize for chair, vice chair, assistant clerk, assistant treasurer, and the criteria for those positions are outlined in number 1. And then once we have a nomination and elect a chair, the chair will take over the balance of the meeting. Okay, and that's reorganization. That's it for me, and for the meeting. Mr. Chairman, I'll turn back over to you.
So will this be next week or today? You want to do this?
Next week.
Next week, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public and written comment. However, no written comment was submitted, and I have not received any request for public comment. That includes this meeting. Do we need a vote? Okay, then I hereby declare this meeting adjourned.